Welcome back. In this episode, we are going to answer the question, what is the rich man's Roth? This is interesting because this term, rich man's Roth, is usually used by savvy CPAs and tax attorneys, many of which I've trained. So as we continue, I'm going to help you understand the three benefits that the rich man's Roth has that a regular Roth does not have, and the obstacles that people have where 91% of Americans are duped into putting their money into tax-deferred IRAs and 401ks, and why that's a mistake in my opinion. I want to give you a transformation so you can harness these and you'll think, why would anybody own a traditional Roth when I can have three additional benefits that Roths will never have? I'm Doug Andrew, and I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks many valuable lessons. And so when I teach advanced continuing education to financial advisors, CPAs, and tax attorneys, the savvy ones will often say, oh, that is a rich man's Roth. And I snicker because you don't have to be rich to own a rich man's Roth. Well, why do they call it that? It's because the rich can't own or participate in a Roth. So what are the two benefits of a Roth and how did they get started? Back in 1997, under the Taxpayer Relief Act, Congress was hard up for money. And they realized that there were trillions of dollars in yet to be taxed IRAs and 401ks. See, a traditional IRA or 401k, where 91% of Americans put their money, is the best savings bond the government ever came up with for themselves. In other words, the government allows you to put in pre-tax dollars or get a tax deduction in an IRA and accumulate your money on a tax-favored basis. But when you retire, you agree now to pay tax on what you sell your investments for. You liquidate them. I've often used the analogy of the farmer and the seed because a traditional IRA or 401k, you are actually buying your seed in the springtime of life and you don't have to pay tax on that. And you plant it, you nourish it, you cultivate it, and finally in the fall of life, when you harvest it, now you agree to pay tax and you thought, well, I'll be in a lower bracket then. That has not been true for 25 years. And so what happened in 1997 is Congress was hard up for tax revenue and they didn't want to wait until people retired to start cashing in on their portion. And so a senator by the name of Harry Roth says, I've got an idea and we'll name it after me. And so hence the Roth IRA first came out and later the Roth 401k. He realized that Americans were getting smarter. They're not in lower tax brackets when they retire. It would be far better to simply pay the tax on the seed money going in and then accumulate it tax-free. And during the harvest, take it out tax-free. Now, in actuality, mathematically, there is no difference between a traditional IRA or 401k or a Roth if tax rates stay the same. Most people thought tax rates would be lower. They're not. So if you think taxes are going to be higher, it's interesting. Whenever I speak to audiences, I'll say, so how many of you think that future tax rates will likely be lower? Nothing but crickets. Well, how many think they're going to be the same? One or two raise their hand. Well, how many think that ultimately they're going to be higher because of irresponsible government spending, the printing of money, and so forth? And everybody raises their hands. I'm going, so why do you want to continue to defer paying tax and accumulate your nest egg into this perceived unknown advantage, and then you'll have this much money and you pull it out and pay as much or more in tax than you've ever had to pay in your life? They go, well, what's better? A Roth is a step in the right direction. It's better, but it's not the best. What are the two benefits of a Roth? See, he said, if we get people to convert their traditional IRA 401k, that will be a cash cow for us as the government. It will trigger tax. Now, I'm not saying that might not be a smart idea for some people, but when you convert money from a traditional IRA or 401k into a Roth, you pay the tax. And they wanted that tax revenue. And from that point forward, it grows tax-free. So a Roth allows you to take after-tax money, but it grows tax-free. And then when you go to retire, you take it out tax-free. So inflation, market volatility, or whatever, if you do it the right way, taxes going up will not affect you at the harvest part of your life, and you will not outlive your money. Well, folks, those are only two benefits of a Roth. A rich man's Roth has three additional benefits on top of those two that Roths will never have. What are they? See, Roths have strings attached. What are those strings? Well, you can only put in a certain dollar amount or a certain percent of your income. If you put money in, you can't access your money for 5 years or till you're 59 and a half or whatever. See, those are strings attached to a Roth. If you make too much money, you can't even own a Roth. That's why rich people can't participate in a Roth unless they're rolling over a big lump sum. The rich man's Roth has the benefits of accumulating your money tax-free, and you can access it tax-free, but I have a lot of people who might have a banner year in their business or whatever. They have a windfall. They want to put in $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 in one fell swoop in a single year. You can't do that with a Roth. You can in the rich man's Roth, what I call the laser fund. If you put in $100,000 or $200,000, I had one lady, she put in $200,000. She says, I'm not going to touch this for 20 years. She got in a horrible accident in California. She called and said, oh my heavens, my laser fund, Doug, I need $160,000 as quickly as possible. If that were a Roth, she could not access that money. I said, how much do you need? $160? It took 36 hours to get that money to her. You can't do that in a Roth. You can access your money without triggering taxes or penalties or anything like that. It's much more liquid. But this is what a Roth will never be able to do. In my rich man's Roth, what I call the laser fund, it will blossom when I pass away. In other words, every million that I have in my rich man's Roth, if I were to die in an accident tomorrow, that million would blossom in value to 2.5 million right now, totally tax-free to my spouse, my children, my family bank, which I explain in other episodes, a church, a charity, or whatever. Why would you leave behind this when you could leave behind this if it doesn't cost you anything? Because in my various education materials, I show you how you can do that at no net cost to you. It's being paid for with otherwise payable tax. Most Americans pay on IRAs and 401ks. So the point is, when you can utilize a strategy that has the two benefits of a Roth, your money grows tax-free, you can access it tax-free, but you can throw in huge lump sums. You can withdraw that, you can access it, you have all that flexibility, and when you finally pass away, because none of us are getting out of here alive. I don't mean out of this room you're in right now, I mean out of this life. We're all going to die. It will blossom in value and transfer income tax-free. So why would you settle for two benefits that a normal Roth has when you can have three additional benefits that are just like over the top? So let me share a story and give you the takeaways on what I want you to remember. So we had a couple come to us. They were actually both physicians, and they had saved and saved and saved in tax deferred accounts and IRAs and 401ks. They were just busy doing what they did best as physicians. They ended up with $4.6 million in yet to be taxed IRAs or 401ks in the market. So what we did is we began to convert over a 5-year period with what we call a strategic rollout into a portfolio of 4 rich men's Roths, okay? Now, for her, it was a rich woman's Roth. But as they did this, what happened is we were able to not save them the $2.4 million that they were going to pay in tax if they simply followed the herd, because their advisor said, oh, just pay the tax. In fact, I remember their CPA when I said, I want to save them about $1.2 million of unnecessary tax. I wish I could save all $2.4 million they're going to pay. And the accountant goes, oh, they can afford to pay that. I'm like, you cannot believe how many people where their advisor says they can afford to pay that much in tax. But when I ask the people, they go, I would rather pay just $1.2 million in tax, not $2.4 million. And so this couple said, let's do it. Long story short, they are now just in their 5th year of funding their 4 laser funds, the Rich Man's Roths. And we saved them $1.2 million of unnecessary tax. Do you know what we did with that money? They have it set aside to be able to do college funding and matching plans for their grandchildren. They were able to take cruises, do all kinds of things with that money that would otherwise have gone down the drain in unnecessary tax, because they seized the opportunity to employ the Rich Man's Roth. And at the end of the day, when they pass away, do you know it will blossom into over $8 million tax-free? There's not a Roth around that will do that, let alone a traditional IRA or 401k. So what are the three takeaways? First of all, a Rich Man's Roth has three benefits that a traditional Roth does not have. Instead of just growing your money tax-free and allow you to take it out tax-free, there's no limits to how much you can put in lump sums. It has flexibility. You can access money without triggering IRS penalties. But when you finally pass away, it blossoms. It actually reimburses you many-fold for the taxes you paid while you got it out of your traditional account and into the Rich Man's Roth. So what is the Rich Man's Roth? It is actually technically in the Internal Revenue Code under three sections, Section 72E, 7702, and 101A, a maximum funded insurance contract utilizing indexed universal life insurance contract, but you're structuring it to be a living benefit more than just a death benefit. It's what I affectionately call the laser fund, because it passes the liquidity, safety, and rate of return test with flying colors, and hence I've written 11 books. This is my most recent bestseller. I would love for you to get a free copy. And so you can click on the link below and be able to go in and get a copy of this. Just pay nominal shipping and handling fee. And it has 200 pages, 14 chapters, charts, graphs explaining why this is called the Rich Man's Roth. If you learn more by stories, you're not a numbers person, you flip this book over. And it has 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 chicken soup for the financial soul stories. And you will read about those two physicians and about 61 other people who have employed the laser fund for a better future than a traditional IRA or 401k or a Roth.